Hey folks, I'm just leaving the office. I have the dreaded heavier than usual traffic on your way home, so it's going to take an hour drive home, which sucks ass for sure. We're going to go to ExperiencedDevs subreddit for a topic. This one is about, how do they phrase it? Basically, it's an engineer who has a coworker that seems to be underperforming, and they are curious about like how to continue to bring this up with their manager, like the frequency. They it seems like there's no action being taken. So for a little bit of context, just to kind of set the stage for this part in particular, they're saying that they observed this. It was actually a senior engineer that also corroborated it, where they're like, yeah, I've also noticed the same thing. So now this person's like, okay, I'm not the only one, and it seems to be pretty consistent and or repeated. And so they've brought it up with their manager, and they were showing the number of tickets in Jira or something and how it's all balanced, and their manager was like, oh, I didn't realize it was to that extent. And this person's like, well, I find that kind of weird because the senior engineer already talked to them about it, blah blah blah. So they're kind of seems like my manager is forgetting or not really doing anything about it. It seems kind of off. So what do you do, right? Because they're now concerned that if they're working on stuff with this person or within the team, if this person's not pulling their weight and not sort of delivering their team members, then are they in this weird situation where it also looks like they're doing, the person who wrote the post, they're also doing bad because the whole team is not able to perform as well. It's a sticky situation, right? And depending on how much experience you have or how many companies you've been at, you may have found yourself in a spot like this, which is pretty unfortunate, right? You're trying to do good work and there's a colleague or something, and it just seems like they're not really, they're never present. They're if they are reporting status and updates and stuff, their work's always not making it. They always have to pick up the loose ends to try and get stuff moved over the, if you're doing sprints, over the, sort of to meet your sprint commitments. It sucks, right? And the biggest problem with this, in my opinion, is that it's very demotivating. You can have a whole team that gets very disengaged when this kind of behavior is happening. So I get it. This person's concerned. Now there's a lot, right? In this particular case, we don't know all the details. In other situations, we're not going to know all the details. This kind of stuff, you can't just make a blanket statement and say just do X anytime this scenario happens, because it's not going to be the same every time, right? So I think one of the comments I saw in response to this, I'm glad they kind of started it off, but they're you might not know what's going on behind the scenes, right? And so this makes it really tricky. The big challenge is that I'm going to kind of speak from the perspective of an engineering manager. If you are unaware that someone's not really, contributing, that's definitely a gap, on your side as an engineering manager. And I'm not saying that as in therefore you suck as an engineering manager. I can understand where, I've felt I'm very overloaded at different points in time. I know others have as well. You're focused on certain things. You're spread very thin. It might be such that you have someone who is kind of sneaking under the radar a little bit, and they're truly not sort of contributing to the same capacity that others are. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's on purpose, they're trying to be sneaky, they're trying to be pull the wool over your eyes, they're not going to know and I can just slack off and do nothing. It could be all sorts of different things. It could be that, right? Someone's like, hey man, I get to do nothing and I get paid, hell yeah. It could be someone's really struggling and they really need help and they don't have a good support system. Like, it could be any number of things. And so, one, as an engineering manager, like, as much as possible, you want to make sure you have a good pulse with the people on your team. And if you're being told about like sort of performance issues that others are observing, and you were not at all aware of that, take that as like an opportunity to be like, okay, like, how do I gotta... I'm not saying that like take everything you hear as like absolute fact and it's 100% like the reality, but take that as an opportunity that if you're caught off guard by that, you might want to think about how you're keeping a pulse on things, because perhaps there is a gap. Now, if you have only one person ever that's ever said this and you're like, that doesn't even sound like, you know, that's remotely close to your understanding of things, it's not that that person's 100% wrong or that you're 100% wrong, but that might be worth digging into a little bit further, right? It might be that whoever's reporting that to you doesn't really have a lot of clarity on something, and they're feeling upset about something, and that's how they're kind of navigating it. Again, I don't like to look at this kind of stuff like people are being malicious or trying to set others up for failure. A lot of the time, like, this is out of concern, and people are trying to do, like, sometimes it's like to protect themselves or to protect the team, and how they approach that might not be what you think is the best way. So just keep that in mind. If people are coming to you and they're trying to share this kind of stuff, like, again, face value, like, you might want to like try to understand this a little bit deeper. So it's tricky as an engineering manager because, like I said, number one, you need to make sure that you have a good pulse with the individuals on your team. And that does mean that when you're going through periods of time, if you're feeling overloaded and spread too thin, like, you might regress in some of these areas, right? And I can absolutely say this, you know, with 100% confidence, that I have been in situations like this where I'm like trying to stay afloat on all the things that I need to be responsible for. And like, when I reflect on things, I'm like, you know what? Like, I think there was a bit of a gap there. There's times where it's not even like someone was underperforming or something necessarily. It's more like, if you were to ask me, like, what did this person do, like, during some period of time, I might not have great visibility into that. And that's, for many reasons, for me, not a good position to be in. So then I have to really go make sure that I close those gaps, right? Because that could mean maybe they were doing nothing and they need help. Maybe they were doing tons of stuff and I'm not aware of it because I was too focused on other things that were taking up, you know, my priority time. And like, that's not a good spot to be in. I'm trying to be transparent about that. I'm just saying that, like, it can happen. Gotta switch lanes here. Oh, this guy's got a trailer. Oh, buddy. Thank you for being the one who pulls out in front of me. Here's where the traffic is. I found it. So, in situations like this, like as an engineering manager, you, like, getting to the root cause, I think, is important. And so, like, obviously, like I was saying, step one is having observability, right? So making sure that you understand where people are, like, where they're at. And then when you're noticing that there's something that feels off, it's not a matter of like, therefore person sucks or therefore it must be X. Like, you actually don't know that. So how do you get that figured out? Does this person need help? How are you going to figure that out? Right? Is it a technical thing? Is it because there's something really stressful for them going on at home that you have no visibility into? Right? I've had employees that had, you know, sick family members. I've had employees that had sick pets. I've had employees where they have relatives in different parts of the world where it's not very safe. I've had, you know, people that were burnt out from previous roles, all sorts of things. And like, if you don't dig into what's going on and you make an assumption, like, it could be a very wrong thing. So again, when you're in a position where you have a lot of trust and respect with the people that you're working for, or working with, sorry, I have found that that pays so many dividends, because it's way better for someone to come to me and be like, hey, like, I am feeling off about this. I'm not feeling like I can focus. I'm like, whatever. I want to tell you up front because I'm concerned about my own like performance or whatever it happens to be, right? Like, they're doing this reflection and feeling like, I want to tell you this before you might observe something. And like, people won't do that if they don't trust you, right? So I would much rather be in a situation like that, put in as much effort as I can to make sure that people trust me, that they can come to me and talk to me like that. Because if they're just avoiding me and they don't want to share, then I'm like, okay, like you don't trust me. And that means that if I'm trying to work with you on this stuff, it's going to be really difficult, because if you don't trust me, like, how do you not believe that I'm trying to help you, right? Like, this is the kind of challenge that happens. Then people will, as you're trying to coach them through things or give them space to like, hey, you need some time off because of whatever's going on. Like, okay, like, let's make sure we can get your projects and stuff balanced out. Like, if people don't trust you, they might see that as like that might be like a sneaky or malicious thing you're trying to do. So that's why it's like a fundamental thing to work on. So having visibility, trying to get to the root cause of what's going on, and then coaching and working with that person on it. And that's going to be very situational depending on whatever the situation is. Cookie cutters don't work very well, unless you're making cookies. I wouldn't mind a cookie. I had a donut today. But yeah, you don't want to take the exact same approach, apply it to everyone. It's just a recipe for disaster. So what's really difficult, and I'm speaking from like my own personal experience on this kind of stuff, is like, you want to make sure that you can provide a sort of growth path or like recovery path for people where performance is not there, that is very clear, that gives them an opportunity to succeed. Because if you're like, this is where pips and stuff come up, right? Where it's like, yeah, here's your path to like improve. And it's like very much set up that we don't give a shit. Like, try all you want. Like, we're basically planning to fire you. I think that's a very ridiculous thing to do, personally. So again, how much time and effort are you going to invest into this person to try and turn things around? And my litmus test for that is really like, I don't know if I've said this on like recording, but like my philosophy is like, I would like to spend as much time and effort as needed, so that if I have to sit down in a call to unfortunately terminate someone, if I feel like in that conversation there was anything more I could have done to try and help them turn things around, so I literally envision it, and I'm like, if I feel like I'm like, oh, I could have done whatever, like it's kind of like, am I gonna have regrets? Like, if they are terminated, like, oh, I could have. If I feel like that, I will still keep doing what I could and should do. If I'm reaching the point where I'm like, I've tried, like I've exhausted my options, especially if people aren't progressing or showing an interest in progressing, then at least I'm like, I've done everything that I possibly can. Right? So that's my litmus test for it. But the challenge with that is that, kind of like what I was saying a little bit earlier, and very relevant to this question on Reddit, is like, when you have other people starting to observe this kind of behavior, this is where it starts to have a negative effect on the team. And in the very beginning, maybe not much, right? Someone's like, hey, like, I don't know what's up with this person. Like, I'm genuinely concerned that they might need some help. It depends where it's coming from, right? Some people might just observe it and get frustrated, and they're like, it's not fair that Billy's not doing anything and I got to do double the work. Or me and Sally have to do an extra 50% to make up for the work that Billy's not doing. Like, that can build up resentment over time. Whatever it happens to be, this can have a very negative effect on teams. So for me personally, it's really challenging because I will want to try and invest time and effort into people. And if that's going on in the background where it's like people are noticing that there's like a performance issue or whatever else is going on, then you start getting people asking questions. Then you start having an impact to the team. Then you have people that start getting disengaged, right? So it's really challenging. And for me, at some point, what I was describing where I'm like, hey, like if I'm imagining in this, having to be in this conversation with this person, the other thing that I need to consider is like, if the team is starting to like be impacted by this, while that's happening, they're likely also losing trust in me because they're like, this dude doesn't see what's going on. He's not doing anything about it. And I can't tell them, oh, like I'm working with Joey on this. Yes, I know Joey's doing terribly and like, hey, like it's okay. Like, I don't know, like I can't do that. That's like more of a personal thing. But what I can say is like, if people are like coming to me and they're like, hey, like I have concerns or like this is bothering me or whatever, I can let them know that like I acknowledge, but I'm not going to give them the details of like, oh, I structured this awesome performance plan for them. There might be like, say, senior team members where it's like they're noticing some challenges and I'm like, hey, like, yes, and hey, like there's some awesome opportunities for you to help coach with this person and on this project, whatever. Like kind of letting people be part of the solution can be something, but I'm never going to frame things as like, you know, like I need to respect someone's privacy. So it does create this weird situation where like, because you're not sharing details with people and they don't have full visibility into it, it's like, well, are you doing anything about it? So you can't, what I'm trying to say is you can't let this stuff go on for so long that it's having a negative impact on the team, and then that impact is more broad than just, you know, one person not really doing work. When the team culture is like impacted by it, it's I don't want to say it's too late kind of thing. You can obviously recover, but like it's just more problematic to deal with. I got to switch lanes here in this fast lane, so give me 1 sec. Because I have to look forwards and backwards at the same time, but we did it. Okay, so how often's too often? How do you do it? How do you let your manager know, right? So what's the right way? What's the wrong way? I would say, like, personally, I think it's important to raise visibility about things that you see. I feel that way. I know that I've had employees in the past where they're like, they feel like, you can tell they feel guilty. They'll preface things where they're like, I don't know, like it's like they know that they should bring it up, or that they feel that they need to, but they're at the same time kind of like, I don't want to get this person in trouble. I don't want to overstep. Like, I don't know. And it's confusing. And that's one of the reasons I want to talk about this, is because that feeling of like, I think something needs to be said, but like, I don't know what kind of consequences happen if I say this, right? Like, I don't want to say something and then this person gets fired, and then like, that's my fault, right? Or like, I don't want to say something and then my manager thinks that like I'm just a tattletale, or like not a team player, or whatever. Like, whatever the concern happens to be, I've heard many different variations of this. I'm sure at different points in my career I felt the same way, where it's like, I think something needs to be said, right? Like, I have absolutely at different points in my career had a conversation with people in sort of like leadership positions above me, where it's like, look, I think we need to have a conversation about this. I don't know if you have visibility into what I'm seeing, but like, I feel like it's my responsibility to share this. And like, you know, the way that I've navigated this stuff in the past is like trying to do it early enough that it's not like things are off the rails. Because when things are off the rails, it's kind of like, if there's something actually wrong that needs to be addressed, and you wait till things are off the rails, now you're kind of going to someone to be like, hi, like, sorry I waited so long, but like, you got to go fix this now. So trying to do it early enough, but also with enough sort of like evidence. And when I say evidence, this could be whatever based on your situation that you're kind of dealing with or going through, but like, you know, maybe you have someone on the team who's like affecting morale in some ways, and being like, hey, look, like I've, you know, had multiple reports from colleagues where they've come to talk to me about this kind of thing. You don't even have to say who they are, right? It's not about like finger pointing or making, you know, setting other people up for like awkward conversations, but to be like, look, like the thing that you need to know about is that there's some concern, because that's awareness. And I think that's the part that, like, as a manager, I value that part, because I'm not going to be able to see everything all the time, of course. And if there's some awareness that I could benefit from, that might mean like, okay, like I have a coaching opportunity I have to work with this person on. So I do think that it's helpful to raise awareness about things, right? Ideally, you're working with people or working for people that you do trust, that you do respect. So if you're like, hey, look, like, I feel like I have some responsibility to kind of share this, you know, perspective with you, or like let you be aware of it. And like, just so you know, right? And like, what you do after that depends on the conversation, of course. If someone's like trying to express to you in some way that they're like, sure, there's awareness, like, thank you. Or, you know, if they need sort of more insight, like, is this just a one-off thing or whatever? Like, they might tell you like, hey, okay, like, thank you for letting me know. You know, I'll find a way to kind of work with this individual on things. They might proactively reach out to you after a period of time and be like, hey, like, have you noticed improvements in this space? Or you get this kind of situation, like this person on Reddit was saying, which is like, I brought it up and like, nothing's happening, right? That makes things awkward, because now you're like, well, I told you, what are we going to do about it, right? Like, it's apparently nothing is what it seems like. So I think what I would do personally at that point is, like, if you've already raised awareness and nothing seems to be happening, I would talk about like sort of the impact. So I would make it less about the person. So I wouldn't be like, hey, like, Joey's still not doing shit, like, we got to get rid of Joey, like, when are you going to get rid of Joey? Like, obviously I'm exaggerating, but like, I think that's not the productive angle to the conversation. I think the more productive angle is being like, hey, like, you know, I've been feeling kind of like demotivated or disengaged, and I think some of that's stemming from the fact that, like, I don't feel like we have a really good like a balance of work on the team or something. Or I've been feeling disengaged because, you know, I've had a couple of people coming to me and they have some concerns about like balance of things on the team, right? And again, you don't have to use the specific people's names to like throw them under the bus, so to speak, but like, just when you have this conversation, like explaining that there is some impact, how you're feeling, how it's affecting your work, I think that's important, because that's the kind of thing that's like, you're providing visibility into something. Because to say like, hey, Billy is not doing work, I'm just making all sorts of names for these individuals. I'm so sorry if your name is like one of the names I'm just throwing out there, but when you're making it about just like, you know, so-and-so's not doing work or whatever, like, it's I don't know the right way to say this, and not because I'm trying to like to not say that like a bad thing. I don't know. I feel like that's not just, it's just not super helpful. Like, to raise awareness of it and raise concern, like the first time kind of thing, I think that is helpful, to be like, hey, like, something I noticed, right? And I think like that's more like, I don't know if you see this, but just wanted to give you some visibility. I think that can be helpful. But I think like what's not super helpful is like, hey, Billy's still not doing work. Billy's still not doing work. Unless there is some like proposed solution or action, right? Like, hey, I'm just going to make this up. Billy, I noticed Billy's still not really getting through his work items, and I figured, like, you know, if you think Billy needs help, like, I, like, you know, could volunteer for that, or like let me know the area that you think Billy seems to be struggling with, and like maybe I could work with one of the engineers on the team to like help make sure he's supported, right? Like that kind of thing is super helpful. Or taking the other direction I said, which is like talk about the impact on your ability to work effectively. And the reason I say that is like, again, if you haven't noticed, a lot of these videos, like I'm thinking through things for like the first time to put them into words. I think that trying to transform scenarios to make them about like when they become about you or how they're affecting you or things that you can help with, I feel like that makes the conversation a little bit more, I don't know, like straightforward or something that's actionable. Like saying Billy doesn't do work. It's like, well, okay, like I have, as a manager, I have to go like confirm this. I have to go like see like where is this actually coming from? I have to dig in. When you say something like, I think Billy is struggling a little bit and I wanted to check to see if I can find, like if I can help or whatever, like this is something that, you know, you're actually proposing some responsibility. This becomes, you know, the conversation you're having, this is actually, you know, could be seen about you, right? Like, how can I help? When it's, hey, you know, I've been disengaged or kind of struggling a little bit, this is, again, about you. Your manager can work with you on this, right? One of the things that might come up in that conversation is, like, it feels like the workload's not really being balanced. Okay, like, kind of dig into it. I don't know. I find that, like, that conversation can be a lot more straightforward. And, again, I want to be transparent. Personally, if someone came to me and they were like, you know, the second or third time and they're like, Billy's still not working, I'm not going to be like mad at that person. I should have said this earlier, but like, I don't think that, I don't look at people trying to provide me information with like them doing something wrong. I very much believe that people act with, you know, they're trying to do, like, act with best intentions. So if someone's like, you know, Billy's not carrying his weight, I'm so sorry, Billy. And then like they need to bring it up again. I don't look at that like this person's, I don't know, just like whining or whatever. I need to dig into it more. Like it's obviously coming up because it's affecting them in some way. Right? Like help me understand that, because I can also work with you on some of that if I understand it. Right? So like, thank you for the visibility. If I need to go work with Billy on some things, I'll go figure that out. But in the meantime, because, you know, unless you're actively volunteering to help with Billy because you want to be able to help, in the meantime, like, how can I work with you to help improve your situation? Because that's something that you and I can work on. Right? And again, thank you for the information. Thank you for the observation. Again, like I was kind of hinting at it earlier, saying it earlier, that I've had people on my teams historically that are like, I want to bring this to your attention, but like, I don't know if I should or if I'm allowed or whatever. And I'm like, of course, like, I look at like my conversations with my employees, like I want that to be a very safe place for them to be able to talk about anything. I've had employees say to me like, oh, I don't want to talk about that because I'm just venting. And I'm like, but like, if I'm giving you some space to do that, like, that's fine. I know that like your goal is not to sit here and just like vent or whatever. And it's the same thing if you're trying to, you know, bring up something where you're like, I'm just trying to raise awareness, but like, I don't want to get this person in trouble or whatever. I'm like, I'm not going to like take a note and say like, you know, Sally is trying to get Billy fired, so like Sally's bad. Like, it's not the case. It's just, for me, it's just information. It's things for me to follow up on. And I do appreciate it. And I just want to make sure that people always feel comfortable that they can do that kind of thing. Because once people lose that trust or that comfort, then like you are just, more blind to different things that you might not be observing on the team. So, I do think that like it's worth resurfacing. I think you have to think about the situation you're in and how you want to approach it. Like, let me frame it a slightly different. If you're this person who's asking about this, right? This is something that's bothering you. Of course, that's why you're bringing this up in the first place. So something about this is bothering you. Like, what does a path forward look like for you? Like, what makes you become less bothered by this? I think that's probably like a helpful reflection. Is it truly just like you want to make sure that your manager is aware? Is it like, hey, look, like awareness isn't enough at this point because like I tried to make you aware and like nothing's happening and it's still having a negative effect on me? I think you have to understand kind of like where you're at and what you want out of such a conversation. Because that will kind of change like how you might approach it. But yeah, I guess what I'm ultimately trying to say is like, I wouldn't start being quiet about things. That's actually a fear of mine, is that when leading teams, like if you're getting feedback and you have people that do trust and respect you and they're willing to come to you with stuff, if you don't try to steer things in a direction that's going to improve the team, whatever the situation happens to be, people will start getting quiet. And at different points in my career, I don't need to or want to go into the details to explain, but at different points in my career, I have literally had conversations where I've heard engineers say, it's just not worth speaking up about it anymore. Like some flavor of that, right? It's just not worth it. So like, why bother? And to me, that's like one of the scariest things from like a team culture perspective. So that's what, like, I'm trying to lean into that, because if I think about a scenario like this where someone's not really contributing to the same level that others are, I don't want the team to fall quiet and be like, man, like, work friggin' sucks. Like, I don't like doing this because it's unfair. Like, I think about this all the time and it bothers me and I'm just disengaged. Like, and no one's doing anything about it. And this is just like trash. Like, that's a scary thing for me, because I can imagine, like, being in that situation would be totally shit. To the point where you're like, I don't even want to bring this up because nothing's going to happen, right? Like, it feels like you don't have a voice about things anymore. It's just it's a terrible spot to be in. So that's a fear of mine, is that if you start losing that communication channel with your team, culture just falls apart. I got a yawn. There it is. But anyway, I think that's mostly what I got on this topic. I know I repeated myself a lot, but I'm just trying to think through, trying to put into words some of the thoughts that are kind of going through my head as I talk through it. I thought that it was an important one to go through. Like I said, because I've had people say to me, don't know if I should, or like, don't want to, speak out of turn or whatever. Like, I don't believe that people are trying to act malicious when they do that kind of stuff. So, I think that's it. So, folks, if you have questions, leave them below in the comments. You can go to codecommute.com. You can submit questions anonymously. It goes to my email, and then I can make a video for you. And otherwise, you can check out my other YouTube channels. There's Dev Leader, where I have programming tutorials specifically in C# and leveraging AI tools. We got Dev Leader Path to Tech, where I do resume reviews, and then I have the Dev Leader podcast, where I interview other software engineers and do a live stream every Monday, 7 p.m. Pacific. And it's an AMA, so we go over topics that are from Code Commute, and then it's because it's an AMA, you can ask anything you want, and we'll go through it together. So I hope to see you on one of the live streams, and if not, I will catch you in the next video. Take care.